Not gonna lie to you, it's been a scrambly day for yours truly, sort of all over the place. Off to Buffalo for the Combine later on tonight. Shows from there Thursday and Friday here on The Sheet. Thanks for joining me today. Greg Wyshynski standing by from ESPN.com. Greg is in the rink. Greg is wearing a tie. Greg has a fancy setup in the press box as well. And I'm really curious what Greg thinks, because listen, we've spent a few days doing this. What Greg thinks the most sports toppiest topic is, as we've spent 72 hours getting ready for another hockey game. Finally, game one between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. I can't wait for this one. So let's get right to our outlook and right to our daily outlines and see what's on the program today. And thank everybody in the chat and watching live on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform. Daily Outline is powered by FanDuel. I want to get right to it, folks. It's a busy day, busy show. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. All right. Also want to remind you, in a second, Greg Wyshynski standing by, Stanley Cup Final Game 1. We're going to talk about coaches. The Penguins got their guy. We'll talk about Ted Lindsay Award, and we'll talk about a bunch of other things coming up on the program today. But want to remind you as well, the segment here with Greg is brought to you by and is a presentation of Budweiser. Budweiser is encouraging buds to make time for playoffs, not excuses. Every goal, every check, every win is better enjoyed with your buds. Phone a bud, text a bud, ping a bud, and call out their excuses for bailing on the playoffs. After all, the playoffs are the most wonderful time of the year. Make them count. When it's springtime, it's go time. And we go to Edmonton for game one between the Oilers and the Panthers. And our man, Greg Wyshynski from ESPN and ESPN.com. Hello, you dashing young man wearing a tie with combed hair. Look at you, all grown up now.
Combed hair, yeah, definitely combed hair. It's first of all, it's cut, which was important. That I want to thank the Panthers for dispatching the Hurricanes in 5 games, so I could get home and see my barber. A quick story about how I choose barbers.
Oh,
well, I look up on Yelp, you know, the app that tells you if things stink or not. And the search that I put in is barber whiskey, because for the longest time in New York,
why?
I went to this wonderful Ukrainian barber in the Village, I think it was. And after you would get your hair cut, and they'd like take care of you, hot towel, the whole thing, they'd offer you a glass of whiskey. And I felt like such a man. I felt like such a man after that every time I go to search for a new barber, the search is barber whiskey. And so I have one now in Brooklyn where afterwards all the Russians that cut my hair allow you to have some of the brown stuff as you're leaving, which is fantastic.
You know, I'll tell you, I had my feathers clipped on Saturday. Because I'm going out of town this week, and it was getting to be too much. Like we've talked about this before. My head is like the Kraft peanut butter bear when my hair starts to get out of control a little bit. And I went for the works. I got like the neck massage, the hot towel, the whole a black cup of coffee as well. They didn't have the whiskey option for your boy Jeffy. But you're right. Like there is something about that old school, the hot towel, the straight blade, all of it. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I'm always stunned by, and maybe I shouldn't be because I grew up watching these guys and didn't think anything of it. But when you go back and look at old hockey cards and you see all the guys without their helmets on, and they're all because like they're all like balding, like they've all got the friar tucks going. And then you look at the back of the card and they're like 23. Like, is hair just better now? Like, what happened to hair?
Hair is better now.
Like, hair everywhere is better. Right? Like, you look at the NHL, or maybe guys just bick it after a while. Like, creeping, let's do the Messier here. Let's do the Getzlaff.
Oh, dude. So, I mean, the guy that I would bring up to that end is Nate Schmidt, my good buddy on the Florida Panthers, who used to have, like, I don't know, almost like a Disney cartoon amount of yellow, of blonde hair on his head, like an ever decreasing. It's kind of like when you draw a child. That's how much blonde hair he had on his head. And now he's gone completely Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I don't know if it fits him really, but it had to be done, I think is probably the case with Nate Schmidt. By the way, every time I get the straight razor on the neck, because that's a thing that definitely I get too.
So good. So good.
The issue for me is I immediately start thinking about Sweeney Todd. And I think about how much like when you board a plane, your life is in the
Yeah.
hands of the pilot, be it Nathan Field or someone else. Your hands are in the hand. Your life is in the hands of the barber at that point, because he could just easily be like, "I don't like your columns," and just there you go, you're done.
I remember when you flamed me on Twitter back in 2012.
Right.
You think I forgot that? Greg Wyshynski with the straight blade in my hand.
Who doesn't watch the Western Conference now? And then you flamed me.
I laughed when you got that pie in the face.
But it kind of is like flying, and as I've always been reminded, I would rather be down here wishing I was up there than up there wishing I was down here, which is why I never complain about airplane travel or delays. However long you got to take to make sure the plane is fine, or going up in this flying tube for a few hours, whatever you have to do. If that takes another hour, you ain't going to get a complaint out of me. Now, here's my first question to you. We've spent so many hours. We've spent so much oxygen on shows like this, talking about Game 1 and this series. Is there, and maybe it's just the obvious one about Connor McDavid, what is, and what have you heard, the most repetitive question going into tonight's Game 1 against the Florida Panthers? And is it can Connor will them to victory? It seems like so much of this revolves around last year and McDavid and the angry outbursts and the not coming out for the Conn Smythe and all of that. What is the sportsiest sports talk question going into Game 1?
I mean, that's the sportsiest sports talk question, because it speaks to the sportsiest sports talk topic, which is legacy. And great players winning championships. Like, that's obviously coin of the realm for hot takery, right? The idea that the best player in the world, maybe by the time of his retirement, the best player offensively we've seen since Gretzky, could maybe not win a championship. And then what does that conversation look like? Pat Mahomes without the championships is Josh Allen. And Josh Allen's great, but he's not Pat Mahomes. And so there is a certain amount of cachet that goes with winning championships in a team sport. And in Connor's case, there's a bit of can he elevate the team, because this is his second kick at the can. And we know that he can lead this team to victory on his own. He's one of the few players in the league that have that ability. And so there's a bit of that. But the two questions that have been asked the most here at Edmonton through Media Day and today. One, what motivates the Panthers? Which was really funny to hear that asked to Matt Tkachuk, who immediately said, I don't know, probably the Stanley Cup. Like the idea that you win and then you're fat and happy is such an interesting notion for somebody to ask, because like, it's not simply just like you don't want to have spent your entire year for nothing. It's also wanted to get back to that moment of joy. Like, this guy wants to bring the cup back in the ocean. Did you see how happy Tkachuk was during the celebration? Like, you want to feel that again. That's the motivation.
By the way, did Jeff understand the Mahomes Allen reference is the poll? Thanks, Zach. Yes, I actually got that, even though I'm like the man football forgot. I actually did understand. There's a lot of those polls where the answer is, that went right over Mark's head. But I actually
no. I mean, anytime we dabble in pop culture, I know the answer. But I figured Buffalo being de facto Toronto's team, you probably would have understood the reference.
Toronto South, right down the QEW, where I'll be going later on today. Let me parse that a little bit about Matthew Tkachuk. I may be trying to really, really sharpen a pencil on this one, but I thought a lot about it ever since it became the Oilers facing off against the Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final. Thought a lot about Matthew Tkachuk, and I want to get into Brad Marchand too. Great piece at ESPN.com. Thank you. That was really good. But for Matthew Tkachuk, to the motivation question, I wonder if there was a part of Matthew Tkachuk that wanted to say, what motivates me, I don't want the Oilers to win the cup. There is a Calgary Flames background. There's a Calgary Flames background with Matthew Tkachuk in the Battle of Alberta and, the hatred between the two cities, the two hockey clubs, and all of it. I would have half expected Matthew Tkachuk to come up with what motivates me is I don't want Edmonton to win anything. It's not so much what I want. It says I don't want them to have what I already have. You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't surprise me at all.
He did nod to that. He said something along the lines of he thinks that he might be the player who has the most games played in this building that's never played for the Oilers. Like he has a deep seated familiarity with the franchise, with the team, the city. And I think that was nodding to the history that he has with them. But again, like someone brought up the Flames as motivation, and he said, "Look, that's ancient history, man. Like I've been a Panther for a few years now, and I tend to believe him." But like that's been the question of the Panthers. Like you win once, what motivates you to do it again? And the answer to a man is to win the cup again, because like you have to once you. I'm going to get geeky for a second here. So there's a movie called Star Trek Generations. Yeah. It was the one that bridged the next generation with the Shatner years. There was a character in the movie played by Malcolm McDowell, who at one point was he was in an alternate universe that was paradise. Like whatever your most blissful moment is, you live in that moment over and over again. And his plot line in the movie was there's a energy wave in the universe that could get him back to where he wanted to be, to live blissful moments over and over again. And this guy was literally destroying planets and killing billions of people to try to get back there so the energy wave would hit him. I say this to compare it to the Stanley Cup because that's how it feels. Like winning the cup feels like you are living in the same blissful moment over and over again. And that is the motivation. The motivation is that you're trying to get back to the Nexus. That's what it was called in Generations. And you are trying to relive those moments that you lived with your friends and your teammates and your family the last time you won.
Okay, let me take that. Let me push that a little bit here, because we are to your point. We're talking about things like legacy and euphoria, places in history. Okay, and I think we're all wondering about the same thing about Connor McDavid and the loneliest club in the world that has Joe Thornton in it, that has Henrik Lundqvist in it, that has Jerome McGinley in it. You know where I'm going. Marcel Dion and Gilbert Perreault looking their direction too. Mike Gardner's another one. Man, he got traded and the Rangers won in 95. Holy smokes, that was a tough one. That was a tough one for Gartz. The best player to never win the Stanley Cup. So, but here's the other thing that I think about when it comes to legacy. This is the third Stanley Cup final in a row for the Florida Panthers. We've all talked about that. What if they don't win? And what if like that's the only cup that they do win? Because we don't talk about how many times you made it to the Stanley Cup final. You know, no one talks about, you know, the Buffalo Sabres making it to the final against the Philadelphia Flyers. No one talks about, oh, that was awesome when the Buffalo Sabres made it against the Dallas Stars. It's just there's the Buffalo Sabres, you know, and there's no cups to talk about. If the Florida Panthers don't win this and they just go down as having a great team that won one cup, like Kings won a pair, Chicago, Pittsburgh won a couple of cups, like in the salary cap universe, 3. You're in a different bracket. But if you're the Florida Panthers and you just win one, do you lump them in with the Carolinas and Anaheims? Or do they feel they're closer to the Chicagos, the LAs, and the Pittsburghs?
They're somewhere in between. They're probably Boston, like if we're being honest, right? They didn't win twice. You know, they're not Chicago, or they're not LA, they're not Pittsburgh, they're not Tampa. Yeah. But there was something anomalous about Carolina, Anaheim, St. Louis, right? Like there was something anomalous about those teams rising up, getting their ring, and then you're not really heard from again in the same way. I think that they would be more akin to Boston, who wins the cup and then in different incarnations of the team gets back to the finals but can't close the deal. And so that's not where they want to be. Look, this is a hugely important series for Florida, not only to try to win the cup again, but to keep the momentum going for their franchise on and off the ice. Like Matthew Tkachuk said it yesterday. You could make the case that hockey is the number one sport in South Florida right now, given the state of the other teams in that state, which is something you never thought you'd be able to say about the Panthers. But 3 straight Stanley Cups, a surge in fan interest, a beautiful new practice facility that's got a team store attached to it. Yeah, everywhere you go, people have Panthers flags.
It's really nice.
The transformative thing that we saw in Tampa Bay when Vinnick took over the team and they started winning is happening now in Fort Lauderdale. And so this is important to keep that going. Now, again, making the cup final, that probably keeps it going in its own way. Winning another cup, now you've really pushed the boulder a little bit further.
Yeah, because I keep coming back to this idea that, you know, if the Florida Panthers don't win, Like again, like when we talk about legacy, like, so much is on the line here. So it's weird. Like the more you start to add these things up, and there's a lot on the line, and then you can go down and say like, well, look, the Florida Panthers have been there 4 times if we want to go all the way back to 96, and if they don't win, they've lost 3 and they've won 1. And so where does that put this organization? I don't know that I've asked you, like, I know you've liked Edmonton, but how do you see this one playing itself out? Because we look at it and we say it all looks like 7 games. It all looks like 7 games, but does it look like 7 games to you?
I want to answer that, but before I do, I want to tell you what the overwhelming, not hot take question about the Oilers has been in since I've gotten here.
Okay.
And it's less about McDavid and the legacy and driving this team to win than it is what have you learned from last year that'll make this different? And the answers to that question have been the most fascinating here. Stuart Skinner talking about how he felt like he let Canada down, not just the Oilers, but Canada down by losing last year. And then how he built himself up back after that.
If you're an Oilers fan, you hate hearing that your goalie understands like the weight of the country on his shoulders.
Yeah. Oh, but that's how he felt.
I left my country down.
And McDavid's there, and he looks so calm and collected. You know, he talked about this now feeling comfortable because they've done it before. He felt like it was a circus last year, and now it feels like normal, especially because they're starting on home ice, which is probably the biggest difference year over year. And he's cracking jokes. Like he was asked, I don't know if you heard this, but he was asked yesterday, do you have to lose before you win in the NHL? Like lose the championship before you can win one? And McDavid's like, well, if you asked me last year, I would have said, absolutely not. But now if you ask me this year, I'm like, yes, you totally have to lose before you have to win.
It's the Islanders and Oilers 83 all over again, clearly.
Yeah, he was drawing laughs, man. He was in a good mood. So that to me, that's the biggest thing. The biggest difference right now is the Oilers have a comfort. And the other part that I'll say before I say who I picked is Connor and Leon are rested and healthy in a way that they weren't last year, which is very scary, I think, for the Panthers. That being said, there's a reason they're rested and healthy, which is that they have been unbothered. Nobody's bothered this team yet. They've had a very easy time going through the playoffs. You've had teams that have kind of like not played to their potential, and some teams in Dallas's case that got so, to use a Jeff Marek term, boo-boo faced about things not going their way, that they stopped competing in the same way that they did in the previous 2 rounds. That's not the Panthers. The Panthers don't do that. They will try to drag you to hell until the final buzzer in a series, win or lose. And so I picked the Panthers in 6 for the very reason that I think they will bother the Oilers more than any team has. For the very reason that I think their forecheck will be able to overcome the mobile defense that the Oilers can put out there to try to negate it. For the simple fact that I think Bob can steal a couple games in the series.
Yeah.
And for the simple fact that much like the Oilers are a better team than they were last year, from a depth perspective, maybe not so much with Hyman being out, which we can get to.
Yeah.
But certainly from a confidence perspective, the Panthers are they're better too. Marchand making that Listerine and Lundell line better. Yeah. Seth Jones and Nico Mikkola blowing away the analytics from that Montour-Mikkola pairing from last season. And now also them having proof of concept by having won the Cup. I think they're better than last year, and I think they're going to win the series, but I didn't really think about the whole Connor and Leon healthy and happy and confident part until I got here. So I'm a little wary about the pick now.
I just don't know that Leon's going to get shut out. Speaking of shutouts, game 1 was the Bobrovsky show, and he may be the factor in all of this. We see this every year in the Stanley Cup. In the Stanley Cup Final, every year, there's at least a couple of times where just flat out the goalie steals one. And some people are just waiting for the clock to strike midnight on Stuart Skinner. But he's been great, and he was great last year in the Stanley Cup Final as well. You know, one of the things that I wonder about, too, with Hyman out, and Hyman just, started the playoffs by just, walloping everything that moved. Like, everything, he was hitting it, he was on it, he was hitting it. I think one of the
111 hits in 15 games, insane.
Remarkable,
insane
right?
pace.
Just going, he's like, he was on this show a few months ago, and he's talking about Red Berenson teaching him how to have a B game, because the A game that he used in junior wasn't going to work in college, playing with the Wolverines. You got 1 goal this year, son. That game's not working here. Let's develop something else. I wonder about Evander Kane here. I wonder about Evander Kane as far as being someone that can neutralize or calm down the Florida Panthers. The other thing about Edmonton, like my thing about this series is like, honestly, Wish, like with many predictions, I have no idea. I can make the argument that my head says Florida, but I can also make the argument that my heart says Edmonton. And both
everybody's
those
heart
things,
says Edmonton. We all want to see it.
Both those things can exist at the same time. And I don't know where the whole thing is going to hinge, but I do wonder about a couple of players, and one of them is, as much as we'll talk about Connor and Leon, I really wonder about Evander Kane up against, everyone that you're talking about, like the Marchands and the Bennett's and the Mikolas, guys that just make it miserable to be a hockey player out there. And the other thing about Edmonton too, and this is what we see this year way more than last year. Maybe this is just comfort, but everybody on Edmonton has a role. Every single player has a role, and it's not that they just have a role. Like, all of a sudden, Vasily Podkolzin understands exactly what he's supposed to do every single time he's out there, and that is go break something, right? Look, Victor Arvidsson, you look at him in that series against Dallas. How great was Victor Arvidsson with the puck along the boards? You would swear if you swapped out numbers and name bars and put Ryan Smith on, he'd be like, oh, like Ryan Smith looks a little shorter now. But like his play against the play along the boards with the puck was phenomenal. He was great. Yeah. Everyone's got like a clearly defined role on this team, which is why I like both teams are better. I just think that Edmonton, even though Hyman is out, Edmonton is more better than Florida is better. But both teams have improved. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make the argument that Edmonton had the biggest glow up, I think that's probably right. But only because the Panthers were pretty good to begin with. Their Evander Kane point's an interesting one because I think that you see him as a countermeasure against the Panthers, and I see him as someone with a fuse. It's like knowing the words that sets the Winter Soldier off in the Captain America movie. Like, there's a way
I do get that one too.
Get Evander Kane to kind of like
run around,
get a little goofy and take some dumb penalties. And I think the Panthers are a team to do that.
And you know what? It's funny too, because we would go back and you can go back and look at Battle of Ontario games. And who was it that always got Kane to chase him around the ice? Sam Bennett.
Yeah.
Sam didn't put up the big butt, but Bennett and Kane would go after each other nonstop. So it's not like there isn't a history there between those two.
I don't know. It's an intriguing matchup, and I think the other part of it for me too is that the Oilers have really been able to exert their will on a lot of teams. Like I'll go back to the Dallas series again, and maybe I'm familiar with it because it broke my heart as somebody who picked Dallas to win the Cup to see them go out so fecklessly.
Yeah.
Which obviously is all Jake Ottinger's fault, by the way, as we all know now.
Yeah, clearly.
Dummy.
Clearly.
Jesus. Pete. But I don't think that the Panthers don't quit. And the Panthers aren't going to be frustrated and confused if the things that they do don't work. The genius thing about this team, and I give full credit to Paul Maurice for it, is that they will wait. It's like a gator in the Everglades. You just see the eyes above the water. And they'll just wait and wait and wait for their opportunity to pounce. And then when they pounce again, and they pounce again. This is a team that in 4 wins against Carolina scored 2 goals within 4 minutes in each win. Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that blood in the water mentality. So one of the real keys of this series is that when the Oilers do slip up, and they will, and they allow the Panthers to kind of get in and play their game a little bit, you cannot allow the avalanche to happen. Like, you've got to not allow them to pour it on because they just need 9 minutes. They just need 9 good minutes in a game, and all of a sudden they've put you away.
The interesting thing about that is, for last year's Oilers, yes. But what have all these guys been talking about? And most emphatically, Connor McDavid. You guys think we can't defend. You guys don't think we can play defense. And look what they've done. Look what they did to LA. Look what they did to Vegas. Look what they did to Dallas. And they're going out of their way to make this point. Now, I think if you look at what Knobloch is doing here, what I really love is he'll throw that third line out there to almost be like that boxer on the ropes. Just take body shot after body, just take punishment, and then comes right back with McDavid or Draisaitl right away. He's done such a masterful job of who he puts out when, and that is like one of his things. That third line goes out and takes pain, and just like, okay, here's your job. Go out there and take body shots, hit a couple of the head, whatever, just so we can get Connor and Leon out there. Like, it's so much like that
couple
game.
of the head.
Yeah, whatever. It's just like that so much. It's like that thing that coaches look at and say like, oh yeah, like, okay, we see what you're doing, like that. And it worked perfectly against LA, worked against Vegas, and it worked against Dallas. And that's why I say like everybody has like, they understand the role and what that role can lead to, and they're putting the accent on defense more than this Oilers team ever has.
I appreciate that you said a couple to the head in a tacit acknowledgement that they're playing the Florida Panthers. But you're right.
There is the presence of an impending free agent here who just, I don't know, it's coincidence, it's accident, it's just the gravity works from his elbow to goalies' heads on a consistent basis.
I've been in their locker room a lot. I've yet to see the sign that says "hit 'em high, hit 'em hard," but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the mantra. Look, you're right. I mean, like, I think what you're getting at is something that I love about playoff hockey, which is that teams eventually learn what you need to do in the playoffs to close out opponents, to the style of play they need to be consistent, to get to their game. And sometimes it looks boring, and sometimes, you know, it could be predictable, but that's what you need to do to win. And I know that, like, we just talked about lose to win, and there's some people that just kind of don't buy the premise that you all of a sudden learn how to win in the playoffs. But I go back to the work that, say, like John Cooper did with the Tampa Bay Lightning, where they kept on getting to the conference final and then falling apart. And one season he said, we're going to dedicate ourselves to learning how to play the way that you need to play in the playoffs to win. And then they started winning cups. And I think that the same thing could be said for the Oilers here, which is that they went through the experience last year. They made mistakes. They saw how the Panthers played in particular, and they learned what you need to do to close out an opponent. I'm not sure. Listen, Dallas had some terrible games. Like the game game 2 where everybody was on Skinner's tip, they missed 40 shots and had more giveaways in the first 2 periods of the game than they had in a full game in any part of the playoffs. Like, they weren't good. But that, I'm not trying to take away the fact that if you hold your opponent to 4 shots on goal in 3 consecutive third periods, you're doing something right. You're playing pretty good friggin' defense. You know, and so I do think they've learned how to play, and they've learned how to close out opponents, and it is going to make a big difference in this series.
You know, the other thing too is, and again, like we think of St. Louis, that just sort of bam out of nowhere, and they win the Stanley Cup. Goalie's hot, everything works together, and they stay healthy, and all of it clicks. But by and large, like the one thing that I'm getting every time I check in on Edmonton, it's they all remember what Game 7 felt like when it was all over.
Right.
Like that feeling. I mean, coaches say at the end of every year, like, the way you're feeling now, remember this feeling when you're in the gym. Remember this feeling when you're at the track. Remember this feeling when, like, whenever, like all through your training, all through next year. But you really get a sense of that, and it's led by McDavid. Like, honestly, McDavid wears it. Like, you know that he. There's the horn. Check the lights. There's the he still wears that pain of Game 7. I don't know about you, and maybe I'm just projecting this because I want this to be a story, but every time you hear him talk about, you know, what they want to do this year and what happened last year, it's like there's like this anguish in his face. Like, that hasn't gone away. Like, that's the hallmark of great players, right? Like, turn that emotion into motivation, and great players can do that. And we shouldn't be surprised that, you know, McDavid is one of those guys, and he has a hard time masking it, and we all know it. We all know what it is.
He said something really interesting yesterday, which is that he said that our sole focus is on beating the Florida Panthers, and we shouldn't be distracted by anything else. And when he said that, it occurs to me that it's clearly on his mind, the legacy thing last year. Like, it's not simply just beating the Florida Panthers. It's raising the cup for the first time as a multi-time MVP. It's winning a cup for everybody that's out in the fan zone out there that supported this team and loves this team and everything else. And it's probably also thinking about a bit of the legacy of Canada. I mean, it's not lost on I mentioned Skinner before. It's not lost on these guys that it's been since '93 since the cup's been won by a Canadian team, and to be the first one to do that is meaningful.
You know why?
Why?
Us Canadians can't stop talking about it.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I was like, enough. I love my fellow my fellow countrymen here and women who like, stop talking about '93. We can't stop talking about '93. Like, as hockey fans, Canadians can't stop talking about it.
So that beautiful level of focus to just be like, it's a series against the Florida Panthers, and we have to win that series in order to then think about all of the other things. I don't think that mindset was there for Connor last year. And I don't know if it was the come to McJesus moment he had when they lost in Game 7 and he wins the MVP and he's an empty husk of a human because his soul has been sucked out of him vampirically by the Florida Panthers, or what it was. But like, he clearly has thought about this a little bit more in the year since last year's final, and I think he's landed on the right mindset to approach the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah. Anything more on this one before we move on to some news and some other some funny stuff?
Not really. I mean, it's an interesting grind right now, like in the sense of you're just trying to figure out what news could be. I wrote about Zach Hyman today. I think it's interesting that he'll be around the team the entire time and be sort of their emotional leader a little bit. I am intrigued to see exactly what his loss will be. We're talking about how the pieces fit for the Oilers. Well, now the pieces have to kind of like move around the lineup a little bit to supplant Hyman's loss.
Yep. And
the Panthers don't have that right now. And so that could be an interesting thing for Game 1. Other than that, I'll say this. It was like one of the chillest media days I've ever seen. The woman with a puppet was kind of weird. That was a little strange. But as far as like the boys and their comportment and how they're feeling about this insanely intense rematch that we're about to witness, it was both teams are endlessly confident right now. Yeah. Like, they believe in their style of kung fu, and that's a really intriguing matchup. But you don't often get the two best teams both believing inherently that the cup is theirs in the final, and we have that this year, and I'm fascinated by it.
So the loudest building I was ever in, like hockey arena, wasn't for a hockey game. It was for a UFC fight. It was in Montreal at the Bell Center for GSP versus Diaz, which was it was incredible. Now, for a hockey game, it was Edmonton in the 2006 run when they ended up losing to the Carolina Hurricanes. I went to games against Anaheim and against San Jose. That was like the loudest building I think I have ever been in. I don't know if you think about these things much, or you have like, okay, this is the clubhouse leader for me for loudest building I've ever been in, but you may be in the loudest building you've ever been in tonight when the Oilers hit the ice. Are you aware of that?
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, I'll only believe it when the Jumbotron puts up the decibel meter, and then at some point it goes into the red and then explodes. Then I'll know that it is the loudest building that I've ever been in. But yeah, it's going to be great. And again, that's the other fascinating part of it too, which is that amazing home team, amazing home crowd, road team that is putting up numbers that are on an NHL historic level as far as like what they're doing on the road this year. That's another part of it. And it's just such a great final, man. Like, awesome. we get stuck sometimes with these shitty finals of like teams that don't belong, and you're like, it's going to be over in 5. Like, look at the NBA right now. Like, they're praying the rosary that the Pacers get a game against Oklahoma City right now. And we've got one where we're just like, if it doesn't go 7, it'll be a surprise. Like, that's dope. That's so much fun.
I remember in the Quebec Junior League final, this would have been when Pierre-Luc Dubois was playing for Blainville Boisbriand. They were down 3-0 to St. John. And before Game 4, their coach, Joël Bouchard, they didn't skate. They didn't practice. Instead, he took them to church to go and pray. That's what the NBA final is. Bless Indiana, but don't practice. Go to church. That's what you need. Go to church.
Ask your God.
That's what you need.
Ask your God if you can get more than one win against the Thunder.
That's what you need. All right. A couple of news and notes from around the NHL. Dan Muse will be the new head coach named today of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Mitch Love very much in that conversation, but they go with the New York Rangers. There he is if you're watching us on YouTube. Dan Muse, a former assistant coach of the New York Rangers, Nashville Predators as well, to which Greg Wyshynski says what?
Boom time for inexperienced head coaches with bald heads. Spencer Carberry has blazed the trail for Dan.
Oh, is that what this is? Find me the big man.
Yes. find me the most Lex Luthor looking MFer you could find. To coach
Everyone in the Metropolitan Division,
Carberry.
shave your heads immediately. Rod Brindamore, I'm looking your direction. You have a great head of hair.
But... you can. Yeah. Sheldon Keefe with a shiny knob head is something I need to see now that you've mentioned.
Yeah, I need that in my life.
We talked about it briefly before we went on the air. Like it's a move tailor-made to help younger players that the Penguins will have on their roster. And so you could read that one of two ways, which is that this is the last go round for the core. I mean, Malkin, I think his contract expires. So if he retires, if he leaves, that could potentially mean Sid leaves. We don't know. I think we will all expect he's going to retire a Penguin, but who knows? Mm-hmm. And so you could read this as Kyle Dubas clearly looking ahead to the next phase of the franchise and saying we need a guy in there that can coach the kids. Now, the other way to look at it is the kids are going to be the supporting cast to these veterans. They're not going to go on a spree to supplement the roster with long-term contracts for UFAs, clearly. Mm-hmm. And so I reminded of when guys like Bruce Boudreau got elevated to the Capitals job. I'm reminded of when Bruce Cassidy got elevated to the Boston job. The idea that you need someone in there to coach the young supporting cast and to support them and to get the best out of them, the cheap labor that'll be on your roster, it's not the worst idea in the world to get someone that is adept at doing that. So I do think it kind of serves two purposes. It makes their supporting cast better in the short term, probably, with a guy that can coach younger players. He coached McGroarty. And then also kind of nods to where this franchise is probably going in the next 2 years.
So a couple of things to that. The other person that I will watch for now with the Pittsburgh Penguins is Michael Leone. So he's the head coach of the Rochester Americans of the American Hockey League. He was with Dan Muse with the U.S. development program, the U17s, the U18s. He coached the 03s, which would have been the Cooley group. Nazar would have been there, Luke Hughes. And then he would have coached the 05s as well. That's your Zeev Boyums and your Ryan Leonards, etc. Those types of players. So that I would watch to see if Michael Leone, because he had a great first year in Rochester. Rochester's one of the best teams in the American League. And there's a background there with Dan Muse. So I wonder if Michael Leone ends up on the bench as well. Just something to throw out there as a little flavor puck and things to pay attention to.
I love when Marek plays insider.
I don't know. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it'll.
I'll give that an M4 rating on the Marek scale.
What do you give? What do you give all the Jason? What do you give all the Jason Robertson talk that I threw out there? I wonder if
that's an M2.
Jason Robertson.
I mean, it happened so quickly, didn't it? The carcass was still smoldering from them getting extinguished in 5 games from the Oilers, and all of a sudden, Rick in Vancouver is like, oh, they're playing music now. Rick in Vancouver is like, yeah, they're going to trade Robertson. I'm like, all right, maybe they will, maybe they won't. It just seems a little early for that kind of conjecture to start.
I just wonder if they're going to go in a new direction here. I don't think they're going to take a step back, and I don't think the owner is too thrilled with the way things have gone down the last couple of seasons, specifically this one where they went all in and traded 3 first-round draft picks, only to find themselves losing again in the conference final. There's only so many moves you can make and other players to sign. And listen, Robertson's I've mentioned this on the show yesterday. Robertson's on a very good contract. Considering his production, he's on a very good contract. So if you're talking about maximizing a return to help other areas of this team and not take a step backwards, that one might be the most obvious one that you can make. And he's a restricted free agent at the end of next year with arbitration rights. And he will just kill you in arbitration if you get there. Destroy you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a financial standpoint and a future contract standpoint, maybe you don't want to pay him and give him term. It's just kind of funny to see the only guy that was offensively effective in that series all of a sudden be like, we got to get him out of here. He's gone. It's just wild. But I mean, the Stars are going to have to do something. And do you buy that DeBoer is safe? I guess at this point,
I don't buy that he's safe.
Fired if he was going to. You don't buy that he's safe?
No, I don't buy. I think that I think what Dallas is probably doing. I think there are a lot of people having a lot of conversations right now about what we want to do, and he's going into next season on the last year of a 4-year deal. So I'm not rock solid that Peter DeBoer is back as head coach of this team. I mean, because that's but here's the thing, like there are going to have to be some changes somewhere with the Dallas Stars, and I think this comes like right from the top. So what's it going to be? Like, where are these changes? Like, you're not just going to shuffle out like a couple of guys on the fourth line. Like, hey, nice shot, Blackwell, but it's not working out here. Like, I don't think that we're talking about that kind of change here. Like, I think the Dallas Stars want to and need to do something kind of profound. And I don't think that they're in a position, and I don't think their owner wants them just to run it back. I don't get that sense at all.
What do you think about, like, I mean, Harley's great, but do you think that they kind of need their Ryan McDonough to their Victor Hedman on that team? Or by that I mean like a real solid A- defenseman that could anchor a second pairing? Or do you think they'll just split up Harley and and that could be what it is?
I do. The other thing you have to consider with Harley is he's got one more year, and then he's due a whopper of a contract. Like, his coming out party was the Four Nations, when everyone said, like, holy smokes, we knew he was good. We had no idea he was that good. Now, you can make the argument perhaps, too, that he kind of ran out of gas by the end, and he wasn't that same guy that we saw previously, but...
Yeah, but...
Make no mistake about it. But that was the whole team. Make no mistake about it.
He did some heavy lifting.
This guy's getting
didn't expect to do.
I totally agree. This guy's getting a whopper of a deal, and that's why I keep coming back to this idea. Like, okay... Dallas knows they have to change. Where are you going to do it? And how are you going to do it? Now, do you start to allocate more on the blue line? You bring in one more top 4D, and then all of a sudden you have like maybe the best defense in certainly the Western Conference and maybe the NHL? Or do you try to load up with another scoring forward? They're going to be again. They're going to be one of the more fascinating teams to watch.
It occurs to me, I don't think we've spoken since Dallas was eliminated. Like, the Ottinger stuff is whatever, but you know what was the most fascinating thing that DeBoer said in that press conference? Was saying, hey, listen, man, sometimes it takes a while for these teams to win. Remember the Washington Capitals? Remember how they couldn't get past the same round in the playoffs for 3 consecutive seasons? And then they won. Yeah, exactly. He put out the Barry Trotz thing because the Capitals went 3 straight years losing in the second round, and then in year 4 they figured it out. I'm like, Pete, you genius! Like, don't you remember this other team that won the cup? Bring me back for year 4, damn it! That's when we'll figure it out.
I need an extension, clearly. Couple more years
and
of massaging
they'll come back for year 4, and then they'll fire him for stupid reasons and bring in Todd Reardon. So that'll be what happens.
Brock Nelson signs an extension with the Colorado Avalanche. 3 years, 7.5 is the AAV. I guess they ain't going shopping for a second-line center.
I mean, it could either be him or Coyle, right? Like, they've got a couple different options there if they want it.
Coyle's such a perfect 3. He's such a perfect 3.
He's a perfect 3, but you could elevate him if you need to. But I mean,
of course,
I guess in Brock Nelson they have the kind of complementary to play behind McKinnon. He has a different skill set. He does different things. He can, he's a bit more defensive, I think. And so it's fine. The aging curve on Brock Nelson scares me a little bit by the end of that contract, but they're clearly looking at a window here to win, and Brock Nelson probably helps them next year to try to accomplish that.
Okay, we got something that I want to do. I got some video that I want to show you as part of our Ninja Crispy inbox. I don't know if you've seen this before.
Oh!
Yes. I think you will like this. So, time now, Greg Wyshynski, deep voice guy, for the Sheet Crispy Inbox presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 Portable Glass Air Fryer. Zach.
Meet the first of its kind. The Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand. So you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
Okay, this is an all-in-one system that includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max crisp, bake, air fry, and recrisp with the Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. And contest notes. Visit their website in the link in the show description. We've been talking about it all playoffs here on the sheet. Now's your time to win your very own Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer, something I know Greg Wyshynski wishes he had in his hotel room in Edmonton so he didn't have to fight the sodium wars as he goes out for lunch and dinner every day. All you have to do is head to our Instagram page to find our contest sign up, follow at Ninja Crispy Canada, and reply with what kind of dish you'd like to cook in your Ninja Crispy. I'm sure Greg has a couple in mind already. Contest available to Canadians only, and will end on June 6th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. If you had one of these lovely things in your hotel room, maybe it's salmon, maybe it's chicken wings, what would you have in your Ninja Crispy, Greg Wyshynski, before we get to the question?
Tots. I go buy a bag of frozen tots from was it Ludlow's? I think that's where I just bought some Celsius. Yeah. And then I'd go and keep them in my room, and then I'd come home from the game. Maybe I got a little block of cheddar there too.
Oh boy!
Fry up the tots, make a little cheese tot situation.
Okay.
And sit at my desk and watch Botchamania. That's what I do on the road.
Botchamania, yes. Amazing. You want to share what our mutual friend Arda found yesterday online?
What he found what was it? Flash? What's this dude?
Flash Gordon. Yeah.
Flash Gordon match
Sin
against Sin Bodhi, and it's considered to be the worst wrestling match in the history of the WWE, and it really holds up to that standard. It is a train wreck. My favorite part is when the two are trying to trade worked punches, and they're so awful that the crowd just starts laughing.
It's so good. I know the arm drag that doesn't where they don't let go, that goes into the ropes and then bounce back, and they stand there dumbfounded, like, what do we do now?
It's so great. It's so bad. That's so great.
I was so happy when Arda sent us that text last night. Anyhow, we actually do have a question here, and there's a video that I want to play for you. I'm not sure if you've ever seen this before. We're going to go back into the 90s for this one. All right, Zach, what is the question we have in the crispy inbox today? Guys, Zach, you handle this one.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. I have a question I thought of when Jeff was talking about the Ottinger pull. You're allowed to pull your goalie at any time, but could you replace your goalie during play? I'm not sure why anyone would hot swap their goalies, but is it allowed? Has it ever been done? Thanks, gang. I'll hang up and listen. Dan.
Oh. Greg, what do you think the answer is?
I mean, if you've got video using my journalistic skills, I would say you probably can do it, and it's happened before.
Let's go to. I'm just gonna before we throw this here, because I'm not gonna say anything. All right. So Jim Houston has the play-by-play of this. This is 1992. It's late in the season. This was a dare. Okay. So Scotty Bowman's coaching the Penguins, and Ken Reggett is in net. Wendell Young is the backup. As I understand the story, I remember talking to Reggett about this off air once. It was a bet that a couple of the guys had on the team, and as the puck goes down into the Rangers zone, they do it. Now, the camera doesn't catch all of this, but Scotty Bowman's the coach, Pittsburgh Penguins, 1992. Greg, feast your eyes on this.
Messier, and Tony Amonte. Turcotte out with them. Amonte trying to center, couldn't do it. He was checked. Shell Samuelson moved the puck ahead, and here's Joe Mullen leading a 3-on-2 Penguin rush. Splits to defense, heads for the goal, passes it off for Stevens, and he couldn't get a shot away. Back comes Messier. The goaltenders have just changed on the fly. Wendell Young is in the net. Centering pass, and he stops it.
Wendell Young!
That's unbelievable. I knew he'd try to do it sooner or later.
They swapped. The goalies swapped. Ken Reggett goes off, and Wendell Young appears. From 31-1. So yes, the answer is yes, it has happened.
It has to be like, if you were going to do it, it would just be like a tactical mind F for your opponent, right? Like all of a sudden your starter comes off the bench or something. Like they go from Vanacek's playing to all of a sudden Bob's in the net for Florida. That seems like a Paul Maurice move if you've ever seen one, right?
So as I understand this, and I do have to call Scotty Bowman and ask him about this, because what I was told about this one, actually I think Ken Reggett told me this one. Bowman had talked about a coach, and I think it was with Montreal, it might have been Toblake, who during the playoffs would at whistles swap the goaltender just to throw off the other team. And then they started talking about doing it on the fly. Can you do it? Yeah, why not? You're just swapping out one player for another. But I don't know who the coach that Bowman got the idea from. But obviously these guys took it one step further and said, let's do this on the fly.
Wouldn't it be interesting if handedness was part of that too? Like if all of a sudden...
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
So here's
like
a right catch goalie.
Here's
a left catch goalie. What's going
my
on?
God. Now we're talking a tactical reason to do it.
Oh. Now that was, I believe, late in the season. I don't think playoff positioning was a consideration as well. Kind of an empty calorie game against the Rangers. So I love that bit of video. The only thing that I think we all wish is that we actually captured the visual of Ken Reggett skating to the bench, Wendell Young jumping over the boards, or did he go at the gate? We'll never know. And getting into the net. And then he makes a save right away on Messier.
He makes a save. Yeah, of course there's like an odd man rush the other way as soon as you pull this malarkey. Yeah,
well, it's the '90s Pittsburgh Penguins. The whole game is odd man rushes up and down the ice. You were there for all of it. We all loved I'm watching Penguins, man. It's just going to be 2-on-1s and 3-on-1s back and forth. It's the most exciting team in the NHL. Just flat out fun. Anyhow, is there anything else you want to get into before we start to wrap this puppy up and let you get to your duties tonight?
I want to address one of our most dedicated listeners, Karen Douglas, who texted, who wrote, I guess, in the YouTube comments or in the chat rather, "Wishes tie is so bad. Good thing that NHL ties on Twitter is no longer around." Karen, let me tell you something about this tie.
I was texting with him the other day. Patrick's still around.
This tie, you can't see it because it's dark. Probably, maybe you can see it better here. It's got skulls on it.
Yeah, it does.
Skull and crossbones on it across the stripes. I don't know if that helps you understand why I'm wearing this tie right now, but perhaps you were a little hasty in your NHL ties snitcherdom, if that account still occurred. It's a very cool tie. It is literally from Old Navy, so you know it costs $10, and I wear it proudly.
So NHL ties, for those of you who weren't around for the heyday of NHL ties, was an account run by and created by our good friend who lives in Seattle, Patrick Manager, who came to a couple of MVSW events. Great dude, awesome guy, has a wonderful family. And he would rate all of us on television based on how well our ties were done up and how our ties looked. And do you remember who was, whenever he was on TV, was, as Patrick would call him, Tie 99? The NHL's perfect tie. Do you remember? I'm going to
probably say it's Principe. Was it?
No, it was not Gene. It was Drew Remenda.
Oh, right.
I'll tell you, as someone who's worn ties pretty much his entire adult life, I still can't get that dimple on the tie, no matter what I do. And Remenda's was always like James Bond perfect. He looked so good. That tie was I don't know how. I've asked him before. I would work with Drew. Show me how you do that. And he's like, and then there it was, the perfect tie. And I'm
ties are a racket, man.
Ties are great.
They're a racket. I had to buy a tie recently for a wedding I went to in South Jersey. It was a beach wedding. I was trying to match it to the suit that I got. I was trying to match it to Ruby's bridesmaid dress that she had to wear. This friggin' tie, I found it. It was perfect. I'm like, I'm going to get it. Then I bought the tie. I think it cost more than the suit. What's going on with ties? No one wears them anymore. Is it scarcity? Is it just we've got to charge that much for a tie because no one's wearing ties anymore? They're all doing the open collar. A tech exec thing. I don't know.
Maybe it was the fabric. I don't know. I don't know. Just get.
What was it? Was it woven by a spider? Why did it cost so much? I don't know. But I bought it.
You should have just gone Berkey style. You should have just gone Berkey style with it. You get the last call look.
I think that's fine. I've said many times, the reason that I like wearing ties is because when I don't, because of the shape of my face, I look like a drunk. I just like a staggering
like a drunk.
And this keeps it keeps good lines. It distracts from this whole thing, and I don't look good with an open collar. So I'll always rock a tie.
I'm a big fan of you wearing the ties. I'm a big fan of ties in general.
Thank you.
Said the guy that doesn't wear one on a daily basis anymore, but I still love them. All right, enjoy game one, man. Tonight's gonna be awesome. Tonight's gonna be so much fun, and tonight's gonna be really, really loud. So enjoy yourself, and we will talk. Are you with us next Wednesday or next Tuesday? You Wednesday again next week?
I got to check the sched. It's either I think it might be Wednesday again because of travel,
right.
but we're gonna work it out. We'll watch the socials, and you'll see when the shows with me and Marek are gonna happen. I spent 90 minutes after the Stanley Cup Final was set plotting out my travel through Game 6. I am picking the Panthers in 6. That's not why I'm ending my travel at 6.
Yeah.
I just think the series might stop before 7, and if it stops before 7, that means that I will be in Fort Lauderdale. I will schedule a flight home later on the day after the Cup Final is completed.
Yeah.
I will take a gummy. I will go to the beach.
Nice.
And I will listen to like the Flaming Lips for a day and just let it all kind of just get out of my system for a day. That's why
so
I think I want
fantastic.
to end in 6.
Are you when you go to the beach? Are you like me? The flag of Poland, either totally white or totally red.
I'm a guy who gets a
I'm the
sunburn
Polish
that
flag,
turns into
man.
a tan.
What's that?
I burn easily, but then eventually it becomes a really nice tan. Like the swarthiness of my Ukrainian skin comes through eventually, where it becomes a nice tan. But the Irish nature of my skin, as my mother's maiden name is Loudon, means that I'm gonna be cherry red for at least a day.
I was born a Lachlan and then adopted into the Marek family, and I am either red or white. There is no in between for this guy.
But I will say this, like, for those who love the beach, I'm not a huge beach guy, but I am a huge beach guy in the sense that there's something about falling asleep on the beach that reboots your system. In those times when I've been on vacation and I fall asleep on the beach, I wake up and it's just like life is renewed. I feel like I've just come out of a cocoon and have become a beautiful butterfly. Like, I don't know what it is about falling asleep on the beach, but your body needs it. Like, your body needs to fall asleep on the beach, and then you wake up and like, oh God, I've never felt this good. I don't know what it is.
Playing the role of Alan Watts is Greg Wyshynski from New Jersey. Thanks, pal. We will talk to you in 7 days, 6 days. We'll see. Follow the socials, as Greg says. Enjoy Game 1, bud.
All right, cool. Thanks, everybody.
There he is, the great Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. I didn't get a chance to ask him about Brad Marchand, but I will say this. Go read his piece on Brad Marchand because it is outstanding. In the meantime, I don't know what we have planned for this. I'm going to turn the recreation over to Zach. The sheet is powered by FanDuel, folks. You know that. You watch and listen to this program. Home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. We actually have a game tonight. I don't know how to do this segment now that we've done it so long without games, and now we actually have a game tonight. We can say things like, no Zach Hyman tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. Upper body surgery out for the remainder of the season. No
the
H.A.
biggest
Greer
cast of all time on his arm.
It's upper body. You see my upper body cast?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wonder what hurt.
Boquist in for Greer tonight for your Florida Panthers. What are you thinking about this one, Zacharoo?
I'm really, really interested to watch what McDavid and Draisaitl do in the opening 10 minutes. You talked about that. It was you brought it up in that game 5 against the Stars when you said, they got to kind of get through this. That's the one to me. We've talked about how loud it's going to be, what that building's going to be like, and the excitement behind it. There's no jitters anymore for this Oilers team for the most part. They've been there. They've seen it. They've done it. Both sides have experienced this. I kind of feel like this is going to be, can Florida survive the first 10? And if they can get through it and they're not down 1-2-0, then this is where I give you the crappy answer where it's like, we'll see what kind of game we get from there. But that opening 10 is going to be really exciting to see how it comes out and the energy in that building.
It's just going to be so loud. It's just going to be so loud. This going to be a great experience tonight. A couple of things from the chat. Where will Marek be tomorrow in Buffalo? We're going to be in and around the rink. We'll put it on the socials. Do you know which place we're going to be broadcasting out of?
Southern Tier Brewing Company. I'm 99% sure. It's right beside the arena.
Okay, perfect. Spencer Newton wants us to talk about vasectomies. Zach, have you considered a vasectomy yet? Is that somewhere on your horizon? After you...
It's a little premature for that.
They say after you dip the stick, you have to pay for the oil. But after that, it's time for snip that thing up.
I haven't worried about the initial part that would precede that. So no,
okay.
That's not, no.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty much all we have right away that I saw there in the chat. But nonetheless, thank you for remembering our vasectomy talk from earlier on this week.
Yeah, thanks.
Do the responsible thing, guys.
I want to ask you something before the series starts.
Turn
here,
the tap off.
It's not going to hold the same weight once the games get underway.
Okay.
Oilers lose this series. Hypothetical here. Oilers lose the series. 6-7 games. I don't know. Yeah. McDavid has 12 to 15 points.
Yep.
Can it happen again?
Smythe. Yes, Conn Smythe. But he comes out because if it's going to be 7 games, it's going to be at home.
Comes out this time?
It'll be at home. If it's game 6 in Florida, he says,
right, okay.
Go piss up a pole. But if it's at home, I could see him coming out. I wondered about that last year. If that game 7 last year was in Edmonton, would he have come out for the Conn Smythe? Don't know.
I think no matter what, 6 or 7, he does not come out. I think that he is almost more pissed off the second time around if that happens.
Man. I try not to get caught up in it emotionally because I'm sort of agnostic about hockey games. But really, my heart, I don't know what's happened here. And maybe it's just it's been such a, this year specifically, such a big deal for our country to remind ourselves that we're Canadian. I don't know. It's something has come out of me that I almost have this, I really want Edmonton to do this. My heart is and it'd probably be the same thing about, I don't know if it'd be for every team. It probably would be. And I wonder too I wonder if it's part for me that it's just there's just so many Ontario-born players that I've watched play hockey. I've just watched them grow up around the OMHA and GTHL. That it's so much easier to if you're just going to cheer for players. A lot of players on that team that I really want to see do well. But I really want to see the Oilers do this. I really do. I really want the Oilers. I can't remember the last time I was so invested in a series. But I want the Oilers to do this. And as these games go on, that feeling's probably going to get stronger. And I'm really conflicted because, again, I'm hockey agnostic. I don't care. I really don't care. But for whatever reason, I really want Edmonton to do this.
Okay, you ready for me to be just a complete asshole?
Again. Period.
Again.
Yeah.
I'm not rooting for the Oilers to lose, but there is not a single ounce in me, because I'm a Leafs fan, let's also preface this, that is rooting for the Oilers to win here. Not the slightest bit. And I saw earlier today that the CN Tower is going to be lit up in blue and orange.
That makes you mad?
This should not be happening.
Dude, the section that I was in at Scotiabank for Game 7 between the Cats and your Leafs.
No.
That was the section that started the Let's Go Oilers chant.
Yeah, I get it.
Through the rink.
If you're not a real Leafs fan, if you're cheering for the Oilers to win. And I'll just pose it as this way.
Yeah.
If the Toronto Maple Leafs were the team in the Stanley Cup Finals this year, and it wasn't Edmonton, it's Dallas, Colorado, etc., and the Leafs have a chance to be the first Canadian team.
No, but that's different because
everybody hates
Toronto.
Right. So Leafs specifically, I'm not talking about the other teams. Toronto fans specifically should not be supporting the other Canadian teams.
You know the old joke, what's on the outside of Toronto?
No,
Canada is on the outside of Toronto. There's Canada and then there's Toronto. but everybody hates Canada. Everyone hates Toronto. Even in the country. That would be an interesting one. Because I think there's a lot of Ontarians that could get behind Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, go right across Montreal, Ottawa even. If you're a Maple Leafs fan, could you do Ottawa?
Could I cheer for the Senators?
Yeah.
No.
First time in 93.
Come on. No.
Is there a Canadian team that you could cheer for to win the Stanley Cup that you'd be happy for? Like when Montreal played Tampa in the final in the COVID Cup, who were you cheering for?
Tampa. Like,
really, eh?
more than you could imagine.
Again, like hockey agnostic. I just wanted to watch a hockey game. It was cool watching. It was very cool watching the Montreal Canadiens fans and everybody in the Montreal organization respect the fire marshal's wishes and not completely fill the building during COVID.
Yeah.
That was fun. Which is a great building.
Look, I'm not rooting against the Oilers. I want to make that clear. I'm not rooting against them.
Yes, you are.
I'm just not cheering for them. And to answer your question, if there's a team that I could get behind, Winnipeg, probably the only one. I kind of like Calgary, but I just like. But I've been to Calgary. I like Calgary. It's not that I dislike the other cities, like the actual physical locations, but I like Calgary. Kind of liked how their teams used to be built. Like when that Jake Ottinger series that we're talking about, like I was kind of like, I don't mind that.
Like
but like that's
David and Connor Brown and Zach Hyman and Darnell Nurse, like all these.
No, I do.
Bouchard,
But
like all these Ontario.
Would the Oilers support the Leafs if they were in the Cup Finals? Would Calgary?
Leafs don't count. No. Leafs don't count.
I'm a Leafs fan.
It is the most hated
I'm a Leafs fan.
team.
That's the problem.
It's the most hated city and the most hated team. They don't count. You should look at that. You should look at that distinction with pride. That everybody, every other hockey fan base, just lives to torture you. Like your hockey team lives in their heads. As much as they may deny it, there's a part of your team that lives in every hockey fan's head in Canada, whether it's love or hate. And they hate it when the Maple Leafs come to their town, in their rink, and there's all those blue jerseys cheering. Buffalo Sabres, I'm looking your direction too. Anyway,
yeah,
it's weird because I don't care who wins, but now that we're here, I'm like, I really want Edmonton to do this. I don't know what it is about me. Anyhow, tomorrow, Southern Tier Brewery is where we're at tomorrow in Buffalo. Next couple of days, we will be there. We'll be at the NHL Scouting Combine. We're heading down the QEW later on tonight. If you see us, pull us aside and say hey, or come by the Southern Tier Brewery tomorrow from 3 to 4, and we will be there barking it out. Oh, you know who's going to be dropping by, not live, but on video on Friday? Sam Dickinson. Confirmed that with the CHL yesterday. So Sam Dickinson will be aboard from the... Are you allowed to cheer for London? Can you cheer for the London Knights? Can you be happy for the London Knights winning the Memorial Cup?
I went to school in London.
Oh, that's right. You're purple. Yeah, that's right.
I'm a Knights fan. I cheer for the Dark Empire of the CHL.
Man, you really do it, eh? Like you like the Leafs and you like the London Knights.
Oh yeah.
Holy smokes.
What other teams? Oh, I don't know if this counts, but like I'm Notre Dame. I started recently cheering for Notre Dame football.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if that's quite the same, but
who do you cheer for in lacrosse? The Rock?
Yeah, the Rock. Yeah. Cheer for Jays, Raptors, just Toronto-centric. And then the Rock, yeah.
Oh, look, there's my navel. All right. Thanks to Greg Wyshynski for stopping by from ESPN.com and ESPN. Check out his piece on Brad Marchand, which is outstanding. We're getting heavy on time. You got a game to watch. So do I. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern. Don't forget Morning Cup of Hockey tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern. Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohen, still the best show going. DFO live at noon. And then our little act here. No, it won't be here. It'll be in Buffalo for the next couple of days. If you're in and around the area, please stop by and say hi. And as I said before, like everyone at Daily Faceoff here thinks that Zach is really cheap, but he's vowed to prove everybody wrong by buying us dinner tomorrow night.
You
right,
and
Zach?
Stephen Ellis. Yep.
That's
you
right.
and Stephen
Ellis says Ellis says you squeeze the beaver on the nickel till it squeals. That's how cheap you are. Throwing nickels around like manhole covers. Oh, yeah. Here comes the bill. Oh,
Wings
Zach's
and
finest
beers,
laces. All right, very good.
Wings and beer.
We'll talk to you tomorrow, and we'll see Zach's onion wallet. Because every time he opens it, he cries. That's enough of my bad jokes. Talk to you tomorrow. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.